Hello and welcome to a very quick build with me. What I'm going to be doing is making this Burrows and Badgers build from Sarissa, which is called Undergrass, BB12, and I'll attempt to remember to put a link to that in the description below. Now the reason I'm doing this is I have just stolen the little delivery postal box thing to put onto Rosie's Hobbit hole, and so I thought while I was here I'd actually make the rest of it as well, while I'm editing vlog 14 and waiting for things to process. So I'll point the camera down and we'll see how far through this build we can get while we're editing. The first thing to do in any MDF build is have a look at the instructions. So let's see what we've got here. I've just built, as I've said, the delivery thing, so I don't need to worry about that, but that looks like that's steps later on. So step 1 is glue the burrow mound supports 1 to the base 3. Glue the burrow side steps 2 to the base 3, and then shape the card burrow mound panel 4 and glue to the supports. So that looks relatively obvious, and I think I can probably manage that. So I'll carefully move the cardboard out of the way. One of the things with Sarissa builds is sometimes the cardboard isn't quite so securely fastened. And what I'll do is I'll pop out, these are the supports that we need to do first, so I'll pop these out of the surrounds, out of the sprues, very quickly using a very sharp knife. So those are the, what do they call them? The burrow mound supports. And while I've done that, I can see that the next clip has rendered in, so I'm going to pause this and I'll be back when I'm rendering the clip after. So the next thing that I'm going to pop out here is going to be the base, which again I'm just going to clip out very quickly using my X-Acto blade. Just find where the little sprue points are. There seems to be 4, one in each corner. That doesn't make a lot of sense. There we are. And the next thing to do is to glue these supports in like so. So a little bit of PVA on each one, just along the bottom, like that, and then press it in. So I will do the rest of those, and also put the next video clip into the video editor. It doesn't take that long for me to do these, and when I've done all that, I'll be back with the next step. All of these rib type structures have been glued in, so now I'm going to get the next step, which was to glue the burrow side steps, which are these two things. So I'll cut them out of their sprue and we'll glue them on as well in exactly the same way. There we are, that's done. So the step after that is to glue the card burrow mound, which is this particularly slightly flimsy looking structure, I believe. And it does seem to suggest, if you look at the picture, that I'm taking that centre out. So let's do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some clamps, if I can say the word correctly. I should know that word, I say it a lot enough. So there we are. I'm going to grab some clamps so that I can clamp it down around the edge and keep it in place, and I will do that on camera. So, and I have another clip to put onto my vlog, so yeah, I'll be back again in a second. As you can see, I have all the clamps, as is traditional, and what I've done is I've had a little bit of play with this off camera so that I can do this without looking too much of a fool. Not that I really care. We're learning together, and it does seem to go together quite nicely. So what I'm going to do first is carefully remove this, hopefully, if I can, yep, and put some glue on the centre bit here. So put some glue down each of these ribs, because that is what it is sticking to, and I'm actually going to need to put some more glue out on my little palette. However, I'm not going to put glue in the centrepiece because that is not what we're gluing at the moment. We are only gluing around the outside. So let's get that done now, and I will be back when I've finished putting all the glue on all of these ribs in exactly the way that you see me doing right now. The glue has all been applied all the way around this now, so now I'm going to press this cardboard section very carefully on over the top, just over the top, in the right place. That was almost a stupid mistake. Good thing I checked 3 times then. So that goes there and that goes there, and that will now press down with those little knocks and fit in perfectly. There we are. The next thing to do is to start, and I realise actually I did need to put glue on this down here, so there we are. You do need to put glue on this down on the bit next to where the steps are going to go for this first bit. So if you're making this along with me, don't make that mistake, or you probably already have because you probably stopped to work along. Anyway, and what we're going to do is you kind of pull this in and it clips in round. It's pretty simple really to do. It was as quick as that, and I probably don't need all of these clamps, but I do need some, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one clamp in on this one here, there, and I'm going to put another clamp in on this edge here to hold it in place, and then the tension should basically mean it's simple enough for me to now go around with the rest of my clamps. I'll say that when I'm not making a mess and flicking them everywhere. And I'm going to put a clamp on each of these ribs. Now that might seem a little bit overkill, but if you've got sufficient clamps, it's always better to have something be completely secure than presume. So I'm going to do that, and also keep editing my video as I am doing, and I'll be back when I've got the next step to do on this very quick, super quick build. I'm enjoying this. This is a really fun little thing to make. The next step in the instructions is actually to glue the steps on. So I'm going to wait for that until what I've just done is finished drying. And what I'm going to do instead is have a look at the actual hatch. So what they say to the hatch is that you should glue the cardboard to this wooden thing and glue the ring on as well. Now I'm actually going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to apply some paint to both these items and let that dry before I do any before I do any gluing together, just so that I can keep it looking nice, because I think I would rather have this wooden effect nice and then have a nice steel effect on the covering over the top of it done, and so I don't have to paint too tidily and neatly. So I will grab myself another brush. Actually, I might have one here. Whoa, I do. I will use this brush that I have here, cunningly planned, and get this, what I'm using a lot of for my wood at the moment. I'm going to need to order some more because I bought this in Belgium a long time ago and it's running out. And I will just quickly paint that over this. And it really is a very quick process. It dries perfectly like wood, this colour. And with a nice dry brush, though you're not dry brushing because you're using quite a lot of paint, you get yourself a little bit of an effect of the wood grain, which is quite nice. So there's a little tip for you. I normally work with quite a wet brush with the paint, with water on it, but not in this case. So we will just quickly put that over there with some nice texture, as you can see, and I'll let that to dry, wash the brush, and then I'll come back and I'm going to use natural steel from Vallejo, which is here, natural steel from Vallejo, which is going to go onto this item which goes over the top and also onto the pulley. So I will get that ready and I'll be back. Clean brush, easy for me to say, has been sourced, and now I am going to put a little dollop of this. Normally I use a wet palette, but I'm just going to put it on here, onto my dining plate, and then again, not trying to be particularly tidy because I don't need to be. I'm going to put that over the cardboard, and I think that will give a very nice semi-glossy effect, semi-metallic effect, without taking too much time. And this is a super quick build. Highly recommend this if you're looking for some cool terrain, scatter terrain type thing for a Hobbit board, or I mean it could even be a prison because it's an underground entrance to something, so you could even have it in a non-specific scatter prison type thing. And then a little bit more, and I'll put that also on the ring here. There we are. So I'll let that to dry, and once that's dried then I will be able to glue those together and I won't have to worry about being neat, which is good because I'm feeling lazy on this build. I want to see how quickly I can do it, frankly. That now needs to dry. Everything needs to dry. That's what I'm waiting for. So as soon as I'm ready, I'll be back for another clip to show me finishing this off, and then we'll get on to painting and flocking the entire thing. I've just read the instructions again and realised that actually what you need to do is glue the steps together before you actually put them in place. So I may as well get that done as well. So I'll quickly clip these out of the sprue in the way that you've seen me do now hundreds of times. You do really need a very good sharp knife if you're going to be making any kind of MDF kit, because you'll find yourself doing this a lot and you don't want to damage with a blunt knife. There we are. And what I'll be doing is I will start probably from here, and you build them up in such a way that you have 2 on the bottom, it looks like, 2 on the middle, and 1 on the top. So we'll just glue those together, and then I'll get a clamp and hold it in place. So PVA, you don't need to put a thick coat at all. Indeed, a thinner coat is better. Then we'll line them up, and what we'll do is we'll do it so that they all line to the back. Now I will put the next step on, next step on, and last step on. And I'll grab myself a clamp. I've tidied them all away because I do keep myself very tidy when I'm working. I try to put things away once I'm finished with them. So we'll push it so that it's all nice and 90 degrees, and I'll clamp that in place so that it cannot move. So there we are. Now we really are ready for everything to dry and to be assembled, and then I can start on the next exciting bit, which is painting and flocking. It's after lunch and after a shower, which is always lovely when you've got a child and you get time to have a shower. This is all dried now, so I'm going to be able to take these clamps off. And also, so have the steps. So the next thing that I'm going to do on this is I am going to glue the steps in place. So that will simply involve taking these clamps off, getting some PVA out, which is there. PVA in here and on the sides, and I believe underneath there. Let me just absolutely confirm. Yes, absolutely. And then this then slides in here and is glued like that, so it goes right the way in like that there. So what I'll do is, at the very least, I will get one of these big clamps. I can't reach. It won't reach, so I'm going to have to get one of my other clamps, which are over here. There we are. And that is going to be able to clamp in there very nicely. And then what I'll do is I'll get a clamp the other side, and I'll clamp it there as well. You see, you can never have too many clamps. I've said it before. I'm sure I'll say it again. Right. I'll let that dry now. The paint has dried, so I'm going to grab my knife, and I'm going to glue the cardboard on top of the MDF shape.
but I'm going to cut the MDF shape out first so they've got a little bit more flexibility handling it, I think. I really like the effect that I've got with that paint. Very simple effect. So we just have to spread it away, a bit easier to see from the back where I need to cut. There we are, that's that. And then what I'll do is I'll cut out the cardboard. At the top. There we are. And then a little bit of PVA on the cardboard, and then it will just sit on top of the hatch. That was a word I was looking for before. Hatch. Tell you what, your brain doesn't know, sometimes go blank when you're talking to no one. And that will just sit on there, and that looks great. That looks like a very solid hatch for a prison or for a hobbit living under the ground, whichever you wish. And the second thing to do is to pop the handle out. There we are. Actually, I should have painted both sides of that, shouldn't I? There we are. Didn't even think of that. Proof that I don't think of everything. So I'll have to paint that. I'll have to paint that before I stick it in. So I'm going to paint that before I stick it in, and then I will be back. But I'll let that dry, and I'll get that painted in the same silver colour all round, and then I'll stick it in and I'll show what it looks like. But that looks wicked. I've stuck the ring in, as you can see. So now the final bit of this, and I'm just umming and ahhing whether I'm going to stick this in place now or whether I'm going to do some more scenicking around it. I think I'm going to stick it in place now because then I can scenic up to it and I can do the static grass and I won't have to worry about cleaning up. So the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to do it shut. You can, if you wish, leave this open, and then the circular thing that I removed before, you can put it in the middle to block it off. But I want to do it shut. So it's going to be a case of PVA on the bottom of this, there. Carefully position this so that you are over those two holes and straight. And then a bit of weight. Right, that's that for now. Leave that to dry, and then really honestly, I promise, I'll be on to flocking and doing other basing stuff. Everything's all dry. And everything's ready now for scenicking, which, as I've said, is the thing I've been most looking forward to. So I've been having a bit of a think, and I've been considering how I'm going to do this. And I have decided that I'm going to use modelling compound around the outside to build up so that it comes up to the edge of the trap. I forgot that word again. And then I'm actually not going to do the slabs. I'm going to do it with gravel. And I'll do grass around the outside, so I'll have a gravel kind of area here and up the steps, and then grass around the outside, but a thin layer of the modelling compound over the whole lot just to kind of seal it off and smooth it around. So what I'm going to do, I have it here, my big pot. I'm going to make a small batch of that up and then smear it on. So I will do that with a little bit of music for you to while you're watching, and we'll get this step done. I'm now going to do is apply the scenic paint over this undergrass model and then scatter sifted sand over the top as a base. So first of all, I have my paintbrush. I just use a rough terrain brush. I have a number of these that I use of different sizes, and they're very cheap brushes brought from the supermarket, I believe. This is the terrain paint, which I have a video for. As I say, I will link that in the description below. And as simple as what you do is, you can see that my brush was quite wet, which is what you want. Quite a wet brush. Paint the terrain paint on, like so, over everywhere you want it. On this, I want it over the entire model apart from the hatch. Don't paint too much at any one time, because otherwise it dries, particularly when it's going over the top of Luke's APS modelling compound. That does seem to like to pull moisture into it. So we'll do that, and we'll be very careful as we're going around the edge of the hatch. So that'll do for now. A little bit more moisture on it. And then, as simple as it is, get your sifted sand. Now this has gone through a very fine sieve, so it's not got any pebbles in it at all. It is just sand, and we're not being very scientific there, we just dump it on. So I'll zoom that in a bit so that you can see, and I'll carry on with the next section a little bit more zoomed in. That's how long you need to leave it for. What I'll do now is pick this up, empty it onto the paper below where it can then be recovered from, and you can see there that there's a little bit here which had dried. So we'll wet our brush again a little bit and put some more paint on there and drop a little bit more sand on it. And it is as simple as that. So if you do find that you've missed, it really isn't the end of the world. So let's carry on, putting more terrain paint. As I say, it does need to be quite wet, because what then happens is it soaks up with the sand, and then you get a really good bind with the PVA. So we'll carry on with this. I may come back into that little bit there with a slightly finer brush, but that's also fine, because once it's on, once the sand is on it, you can work very close to where you've worked in the past without any risk really whatsoever. With the sand now dry, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some static grass. And the static grass I'm going to apply first of all is autumn static grass, 2mm from Luke's APS. So I have that already in my applicator here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the fast tack glue to apply where I want it to go. I also have back here dead grass, which I'm also going to apply. So I'm not going to put this everywhere. I'm going to be a little bit more circumspect, and I'm going to attempt to make this look quite interesting. So let's get going. There you have it. That really was a very fun, simple, quick build, and it's come out absolutely wonderfully actually. I'm very, very impressed. I think that'll be a really interesting piece of scatter, and it could be used for all sorts of different games. You don't have to put the post box on, as obviously I didn't because I stole it for Rosie's Hobbit hole, and with that gone it doesn't look like a home anymore so much. Like I've said as well, it looks maybe like a prison or a storeroom, or it could even be access to a missile silo. You could use this for all sorts of games. So I hope that you've enjoyed that build. It really didn't take very long, and if it has inspired you to pick this up and make this yourself, or maybe even do your own version, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you and hear that that has happened. I will sign off, as I always do, by saying don't forget to subscribe and ding the bell so that you're told whenever one of these videos goes live. And last, but very much not least, thank you so much for watching. Beard Clipper.